Picture this. You're looking at a stunning skyline of a massive, booming city. It looks like the ultimate dream, right? Well, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating and honestly kind of jarring paradox hiding right in plain sight within America's richest cities. We're going to look way past those shiny glass towers and the billion-dollar industries to uncover a story of extreme, unimaginable wealth living literally right next door to profound personal exhaustion. It's a complex reality, and I'm super excited to guide you through what the data is actually telling us.
So let's just dive right into this stark contrast. On one hand, we have the dream. It's that glossy, curated social media illusion we've all seen. The luxury, the boundless opportunity, the ultimate American success story. But right across from it, the data points us to the reality. And it's heavy. We're talking severe burnout, massive widening inequality, and this deep systemic exhaustion. It really makes you wonder, how do these two massive extremes exist in the exact same geographic space?
To figure that out, we're going to start with Section 1, the illusion of luxury and what's really going on behind those glamorous skylines.
I mean, when we think of America's wealthiest hubs, places like New York, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Seattle, they are basically globally recognized beacons of success. They're totally defined by luxury skyscrapers, streets lined with six-figure cars, and just impossibly beautiful neighborhoods. They represent the absolute pinnacle of luxury and opportunity. I like to call them the postcards of prosperity. And because of that picture-perfect image, millions of people dream of moving to these cities in search of a better life. The magnetic pull is just incredibly powerful. But think about it. What happens when millions of highly ambitious people rush into a confined geographic area? Well, it instantly creates a hypercharged, cutthroat environment right out of the gate. You aren't just competing for jobs anymore. You're competing for space, for resources, and honestly, just for everyday survival.
Which brings us to Section 2, the widening wealth gap. Let's pivot to the jarring economic reality of billionaires and housing crises that completely shatters that glossy illusion.
Now, this is where things get wild. Look at the absolute proximity between extreme wealth and extreme poverty here. On one side, you have billionaire penthouses worth tens of millions of dollars, and right next to that, homeless camps. The source material highlights a staggering reality. These two worlds aren't separated by miles or city limits. In a lot of these urban centers, they are literally located just a few blocks away from each other. It's wild.
Take San Francisco as kind of the prime ground zero for this. It is home to the world's biggest tech companies, right? And some of the absolute highest paid professionals on the planet. Yet simultaneously, it's facing a severe housing crisis. Exploding property prices and skyrocketing rents have pushed countless longtime residents completely out of their homes. It's this massive, widening chasm between booming tech wealth and rapidly disappearing affordable housing.
And here is a truly devastating fact from our sources. For some families, even working full-time jobs is no longer enough to keep up with the basic cost of living. Just let that sink in for a second. You could be doing everything right, working full-time, putting in the hours, and still find yourself completely falling behind in these high-cost urban centers. Basic survival is mathematically becoming impossible for everyday families.
So the absolutely crucial question we have to ask ourselves here is, what is the true cost of success? I mean, if financial survival requires this much output, what does that relentless, non-stop pressure actually do to a person on a human level?
That brings us to a really critical part of our explainer. Section 3, wealth, burnout, and anxiety. Let's unpack the mental toll of this grind.
The pursuit of success in these cities comes with some massive, hidden costs. Working insanely long hours in highly competitive industries demands a trade-off. And according to the sources, those sacrifices are coming directly at the expense of mental health, personal relationships, and basically any semblance of a work-life balance. We're seeing severe anxiety, depression, and widespread burnout is basically the standard price of admission to these elite urban economies. And this right here illustrates the ultimate paradox of urban wealth. The exhaustion spares literally no one. Anxiety, depression, and burnout, they're incredibly common challenges even among those earning very high incomes. You can entirely win the financial game in these cities and still find yourself totally miserable, stressed, and exhausted. The luxury facade is hiding a very real, very pervasive epidemic of mental fatigue.
So we know this psychological toll, but let's shift gears and look at the physical environment in Section 4, the daily urban grind, and how these physical and mental stressors compound over time.
Just walk through an average day with me to see how relentlessly exhausting this can be. In the morning, you might spend hours just commuting.
I mean, think of the legendary, soul-crushing gridlock of Los Angeles traffic. Then by the afternoon, you're enduring long, highly stressful hours in a cutthroat industry. And in the evening, instead of winding down, you might be dealing with concerns over localized urban crime. It's like the city actively drains its residents at every single phase of the day. And speaking of that evening stress, our sources point out a pretty surprising reality: unexpected crime in wealthy areas. You'd think money buys a bubble, right? Well, despite the immense wealth of these cities, problems like theft, drug abuse, and even organized crime persist. What's fascinating and troubling is that expensive shopping districts and major tourist attractions actually become direct targets, which creates this constant baseline of stress for residents and visitors. So when you combine the constant traffic, the dense overcrowding, the pollution, and the safety concerns, the environmental friction literally just wears people down. Daily life in these areas becomes totally exhausting, completely independent of the incredible wealth and opportunities that might technically be available to you. All right, zooming out now to Section 5. The future of urban America. With all this in mind, who is the city really for? Let's look at how this builds into a really vicious cycle of urban displacement. Step 1. The rich continue to get richer as these cities generate massive economic value. Step 2. As a direct result of the skyrocketing costs, middle-class and low-income families are completely pushed out of the housing market. And then Step 3. Social tensions naturally rise. This growing divide makes it increasingly difficult, if not impossible, for everyday families to simply exist in these spaces. So, bringing it all together, what the source material is really telling us is that America's richest cities aren't just one-dimensional stories of unbridled success. The real story is that deep economic inequality, severe housing shortages, and profound mental health struggles exist right alongside extraordinary, record-breaking wealth. It's the ultimate contrast. So the next time you see a stunning photo of a luxury apartment online, remember that there is a highly complex, deeply exhausted shadow right beneath it. Which leaves us with this final thought to take away from today's explainer. If this level of localized wealth creates this much widespread exhaustion, mental burnout, and displacement, who is the city actually for? It's a huge question and one that completely redefines how we measure the true success of our modern urban centers. Thank you guys so much for joining me as we unpacked this topic today and keep questioning the reality behind the skyline.